What makes cinema? With over 100 years of films being made in a wide variety of genres, cinema is not an easy thing to define.
I think what makes cinema to me, I think ultimately it's something that for some reason stays with you so that a few years later you could watch it again, or 10 years later you watch it again and it's different.
This is how Martin Scorsese, the director of the 1997 film Kundun, defines cinema.
I'm very honored to be here with my hero. And especially he's very gracious to join us here.
Whether it's Wong Kar-wai's debut as Tears Go By, which was inspired by Mean Streets, or the Grandmaster's fight choreography.
And in fact, when we are doing our choreography sequence, I always look at your sequence at Raging Bull with my DP, because I think that's one of the best action scenes made in the history of cinema.
Wong, like many other filmmakers, is indebted to the enduring brilliance of Marty's work.
Marty! Kundun! I liked it!
Given Scorsese's influence on Wong and his filmography, it is unsurprising that he shares similar beliefs when it comes to cinema.
I think an interesting film is something that you can have an aftertaste. It's sometimes when you look at the film, you might not get it at the first time, but somehow it lingers. And I like the ideas of like the film that we made have an aftertaste for the audience.
Out of the many films I have seen, the aftertaste left by Wong Kar-wai's films is among the most potent. Wong's world is the one I have personally revisited more than any other, having seen most of his films several times, and I have always been curious as to why this is. Why exactly am I, and I'm sure many others, continually drawn back to the world of Wong Kar-wai?
You know, I was born in Shanghai. My family and I, we came to Hong Kong when I was 5. When we came to this city, to Hong Kong, we don't have any relatives here, and we don't speak any Cantonese. Because at that time, my elder brothers and sisters, they stay in China, and because of cultural revolutions, they are not able to join us in Hong Kong. So basically, it's mom and my dad and me, and then my mom. And my dad works at nights. So, and my mom is like a big movie fan. In those days, my mom's actually is like, wait for me, because we only have like half-day school. So I go to school in the morning, and she will wait for me at the end of around 1 o'clock. And then we would just get something to eat and go into watching movies. So we were like living in an area which there's a lot of cinemas showing. At that time, there's like local productions, Mandarin films, European films, and of course like Hollywood pictures. And mom's like, she's a big fan of cowboy films. So we almost spend every day in the cinemas. I think that's become a major memories of myself, of my childhoods, and at the end of the day, so I want to make films, and I want to make films just like an audience. I just want to recollect like the feelings when I sit in the cinemas watching this amazing image.
The 60 settings of Days of Being Wild, In the Mood for Love and 2046 all originate from Wong's experiences as a child growing up in Hong Kong, and even his contemporary films such as Chungking Express and Fallen Angels reflect his memories and what is close to him.
I want to make films about where I live and where I grew up and what is very close to me, because Tsim Sha Tsui is very close to me. I know the streets by heart.
There are some very unique aspects to Wong Kar-wai's filmmaking method compared to other directors. The most well known is the fact that he doesn't shoot his films with a complete script.
I always finish the script when the film is done.
That is very smart.
There are a few reasons he works this way, namely that he hates to write.
First of all, I hate writing. So that's why I always write in. I don't like to sit down, because that's the most lonely moment. right, in the creative process, because you are dealing with a piece of papers and you are all by yourself. But I have to write, so I just may make it the last minute.
And during the shooting of his films, the story and characters are constantly evolving.
I don't think films can be made just like one by one according to the script. Otherwise, we just make a novels. Why don't we just shoot the movie? I think that in the process, there will be a lot of sparks, or there will be accidents, or there will be situations. You have to make certain adjustment and to make it smooth.
Over the course of his career, Wong Kar-wai has been fortunate enough to work with some of Hong Kong's greatest ever actors and actresses, such as Tony Leung, Andy Lau, Maggie Cheung, and the late Leslie Cheung, who will forever be missed. Beyond Hong Kong's borders, he has also worked with Taiwanese legend Bridget Lin, Japan's pineapple-loving Takeshi Kaneshiro, as well as Chinese icons such as Gong Li, Zhang Ji, and the dreamy pop megastar, Fei Wong. With such a plethora of talent wanting to work with him, Wong Kar-wai has been able to approach casting for his films in a different way.
Because I think most of the films today is you have the script first, and then you cast someone to play that characters. But in a way, the best way to work with an actor or actress is to customize the role for him, because you can borrow something from that person's, and in a way, then the experience or the performance will be unique.
In the book titled The Cinema of Wong Kar-wai, written by John Powers and Kar-wai, when talking about his debut film As Tears Go By, Wong said, "There are two people whose walking I really enjoy. One is Fei Wong, the other is Maggie. Keep walking, I'd say. The way she walked around and did little things said more than her lines did. From then, I threw away the pages I'd written. I made the lines shorter and customised the role for her. I didn't need her to be someone else. In turn, she became the perfect actor for the role."
I don't think the film would have been the same if it wasn't us. Galway would have still made the same film, but the characters would have been different because the characters in the end were inspired by us. Although I wouldn't say I'm exactly this woman or I'm like her, but there are elements about her that from his observations of me, it became that. So definitely I do feel, there's my blood and soul in the film.
All of Wong's films, with the exception of Chungking Express, which was shot very quickly, have taken a long time to create.
So if a film is like a woman, then to make it simple, is you're attracted by this film, you're attracted by this woman, and you have to wait for her.
Productions can last for many years, causing great stress and tension on set, but ultimately this is all a part of Kar-wai's unique and personal creative process.
It took me a long time to really forgive him for being like that, if you will, because at first I really found that why do you have to make films like that? Why can't you get it all prepared and then we start shooting instead of having 30, 40 people on set every day waiting for you to be inspired? But then after a while, I realized there's nothing I can do about it. That's his style. And to love him as a director or as a friend, you just have to accept that that's the way he is. And in the end, I think that's the magic of his films. That's where it all comes from, because that's him, his character. And it creates the kind of sexiness or the spontaneous feeling in his films because of his ways.
In our films, with the people we work with, they're not actors, they're participants. They're people who dare to go into this space.
To realise his vision, Wong has relied on some very important collaborators over the years, with the most well-known being the incredibly flamboyant cinematographer, Christopher Doyle.
I know many, many, many people who make films who only feel alive when they are engaging in that process. I mean, a lot of people, like Wong Kar-wai, they don't want to finish the film because that's when they're most alive. So it just goes on and on and on. Because of the pleasure of engaging in visual ideas and pleasure of making things, images, is what it's about, is what cinema is about, and that's what I do.
Where do we even begin with the cinematography of Christopher Doyle? Perhaps the incredible Steadicam shot or the beautiful imagery of the Filipino jungle as seen in Days of Being Wild. Or maybe the incredible handheld work or unusual use of Dutch angles as seen in Chungking Express. Or perhaps the highly stylised Fallen Angels with its use of an extreme wide-angle lens, showing the distance between the characters.
It was about space. We use a wide angle because these people are so close together but so distant, and the camera should be close to them, therefore you feel very close to them, but you know that they're really separated by a great distance of, incomprehensibility. They can't talk to each other.
And how about Happy Together's depiction of Buenos Aires and the unforgettable shot of Iguazu Falls? And finally you have his most disciplined works, the much more formal In the Mood for Love and its sequel 2046, which abandons his earlier handheld camera work in favour of tripods and dollies. All of this is without mention of Chris's use of light and colour, which has produced some of the finest and most memorable images ever put to film.
Wong Kar-wai has always asked me, Chris, is that all you can do? And that's not an insult. It's trying to push me to another level.
The world of Wong Kar-wai would be incomplete without the genius of Christopher Doyle. His work really speaks for itself, both in its quality and its variety, making him without a doubt one of the best to ever do it.
Our films are feng shui, which means, the give and take between a space and a person. I think it's the dance between people and space. The words are just, they're the notes. They're the bass, they're the riff.
While Christopher Doyle is Wong's most well-known associate, the single most important collaborator in Wong's career has always been his production designer, William Chang.
I've been working with William, my production designer, and who's responsible for not only the set, but the look, the costumes, the styling, everything.
William has served as Wong's production designer on every single one of his films over the course of his career. In fact, it was actually William who first introduced Chris to Wong for Days of Being Wild.
I've done so many films with William. I think probably, I'd say 60-70% of the films I've done in Asia are with William as production designer, because he is the best. And I guess, I don't know, we had some kind of accord, and he says, why don't you come and work with Wong Kar-wai? I say, who?
When working without a script, it is the space and the characters that inform the film, and William plays an instrumental role in the look and feel of both.
但是我觉得张淑平对我们这些演员在塑造人物上的帮助很大，因为他给我们从外形上面就有很大的变化。当我们把头发梳好、化妆化好、衣服穿好，你会有一种感觉在身上。
The timeless 60s style of In the Mood for Love, including Maggie Cheung's beautiful collection of cheongsums, is all down to William Chang, and he is also responsible for Bridget Lynn's blonde wig and red shades in Chungking Express. But William's contributions are not just limited to production design, and after their first few films together, he became the editor of Kar-wai's films. Chungking Express, Fallen Angels, Happy Together, In the Mood for Love and 2046 were all edited by William. The original cut of Fallen Angels only included the storyline of the killer and the agent, and when editing the film, William noticed that the story was too cold and inhuman. He pointed this out to Kar-wai, which prompted him to shoot the footage with Takeshi and his father. Can you imagine how different the film would look without this storyline? It's the beating heart of the entire film, and features arguably the most touching moment of Wong's entire filmography, as well as a personal favourite character, the man forced to eat ice cream.
Sorry. What?
Wong has called William the guardian angel of my films, and at this point they know each other so well that they never ever talk about what needs to be done. It's a relationship beyond words, and when combined with the visual talents of Christopher Doyle, they are able to create an aesthetic that is truly special.
Unity is more important than aesthetics, because a film is, for filmmakers, a film is about form and substance. Form is related to aesthetics, and the aesthetics has to be serving the content.
One of Wong Kar-wai's most renowned visual techniques is his use of step printing, where he shoots a shot in 12 frames per second and then doubles it, creating a blurred effect.
So sometimes people think, well, this is your style, but I always want to explain to To students especially, I said, well, it's not only an aesthetic decision. Sometimes it is a practical solutions to solve your problems.
Wong uses step printing for some very practical reasons. Firstly, when he works on the streets of Hong Kong, the blurry effect allows him to cover certain things up. Another reason is that shooting at a lower frame rate of 12 is more economical, requiring less light and conserving film stock. In the case of Chungking Express, Wong did not have the time to rehearse with extras due to him having no permits to shoot, so he used step printing to simplify the process. Chungking Express's use of step printing also works narratively, showing how the characters of Cop 663 and Faye process time differently compared to the people passing by.
Sometimes the limitations become an inspiration, and it is something that not become an excuse for you to be lazy. It has to make you work harder.
I mentioned earlier Fallen Angel's use of the wide-angle lens to indicate distance, but this was never the original intention. It was instead for practical reasons that the lens was first used.
That's after the fact. I mean, the real fact is, it was a small space and we had to get close, right? And then you start going that direction and you say, hey, it's working, this is interesting.
Even more crazily, the very green and unique look of Days of Being Wild was actually due to a mistake.
Also because I made some mistakes in the printing, sir.
He put 3 filters in front of the lenses, so it's always have problems in focus.
We may have made a mistake, but we stuck with it.
I think it's very important to recognise that the aesthetic of Wong Kar-wai is not always intentional. There is so much serendipity involved in the making of Wong's films, but it is Wong's total belief that things will work out that brings everything together.
I would say making films beautiful for the beauty's sake. I would say that's a waste of time and money, but I always think a film will look beautiful when it's right. People said, well, how come your music works so well with your pictures? Because the film actually spawned with them.
To pair with Wong's indelible visual aesthetic is some of the best created music I've ever come across in film. Who could ever forget Faye Wong playing California Dreamin' over and over, providing an undertone for her character and setting the ethereal tone of that portion of Chungking Express? Or how about 1818, which plays on the jukebox in Fallen Angels, where the killer tells the agent to forget him? Or how about the devastating tango apasionado that cuts so deep during Happy Together? And then there is In the Mood for Love's famous Yumeji's theme, which actually originated in the Japanese film Yumeji directed by Seijun Suzuki.
I like the idea of using themes from other movies in movies.
Yeah, I never have a problem with that because it brings with not only the music but also the history of it.
Exactly.
Paired with Yumeji's theme are the wonderful Latin artists that surrounded Wong Kar-wai for much of his childhood in the 60s, such as Javier Cugat and Nat King Cole.
Speaking of that, the most pervasive influence on you was your mother.
It's true.
True.
Yes. Because my mom has very good taste about music, and Nat King Cole is her favorite. When we were very young, we always go to like restaurants to have a quick lunch because this is her habit. And in those days, in those restaurants, especially serving like Western food, they have music. And because there's a lot of Philippines populations in Hong Kong, so the Spanish music actually is very popular. So in a way, I want to recapture that period. So I use several very popular, like a Spanish song in a film.
I think my very favourite soundtrack from any of Wong Kar-wai's films though may well be that of 2046. The inclusion of Javier Cugat connects the film not only to In the Mood for Love, but also back to Days of Being Wild. Nat King Cole makes his return with the Christmas song, and then there is Casta Diva, Adagio by Secret Garden, and 2046's Polonaise, which are all haunting yet so beautiful.
Because I think making films, most of the times, it's something very key is about the rhythm. Yes. And I think the music on the set,
it's a rhythm.
Yes, give a sense of the rhythm, especially for the camera, for the blocking, and for the movement of the actors. I think that works very well.
The music dictates the rhythm both on and off screen, and in turn creates the dance between the camera movement and cast. This stance is most evident in The Mood for Love, where the choreography had to be in sync with the camera movement, but is present in most of Wong's films.
You see changes through the unchange, or vice versa.
Because a piece of music doesn't change, by repeating it you can show how the characters do change. We see examples of this in Chungking Express with Faye and California Dreamin', and Bridget Lin with Things in Life. Overall, Wong skillfully uses music in a variety of ways, such as to establish the rhythm and tone, as well as using it to push his plots forward, capture an era or community, and provide an undertone to his characters and their behaviour.
I really believe that all art aspires to music. I really believe that. And unfortunately, all I can do is sort of tap my foot occasionally, But I think all art does aspire to music, and that means that the abstraction of music is communicating.
With clocks, expiration dates and step printing, it is very clear that Wong is conscious of time.
I'm very aware of time because it's gone and it won't come back.
While everyone is aware of time, it was particularly accentuated for the people of Hong Kong around the time of the handover back to China. The worlds of Chungking Express and Fallen Angels, which address contemporary Hong Kong, are built on great uncertainty as Hong Kong headed towards its expiration date. Despite being set on the complete opposite side of the world, Happy Together also addresses Hong Kong, opening with British passports and being released during the year of the handover. The film poses the question, can China and Hong Kong be happy together?
Some people make films to provide answer, but the way I make films is more like posting questions.
Similarly, Wong's 60s films are also connected to Hong Kong and time.
You realize this city's change so fast. And the thing is, at a certain point that you really want to preserve something, you just want it to stop to preserve something. And this is also one of the reasons we want to make like In the Mood for Love and 2046, because there's certain things that I think we should preserve it before it's gone, because the city is changing so fast.
When watching Wong's films today, it's not just the city of Hong Kong that has changed, but everyone's entire way of life. Long gone are the days of videotapes, fax machines, corded phones, pages and jukeboxes. All of it lost to time.
Mood obviously is very much of the Wong Kar-wai sort of what you call it. I guess I don't like to say nostalgia, but it is nostalgia for something which he knows so much about, which is 60s, growing up in 60s Hong Kong.
As more time passes, the nostalgia that Wong's films invoke only continues to increase. There is something so intimate about the eras that Wong captured, and while a lot of things no longer exist in our modern world, part of the history of them is preserved in Wong's films.
I think longing, loving, they are very active human life experience. And in fact, these passions and obsessions, the objects of it could be a man, could be a woman, it can be about life, and it can be about cinema. It can apply to a lot of things, but so happen we use a romantic love story as the genre of the film.
Loneliness, love, and longing are some of the major themes explored in Wong's filmography. Whether it's through the breakdown of a relationship or the passing of a loved one, Wong's characters find themselves alone, experiencing both loneliness and solitude.
And I think that loneliness is one of the most beautiful experiences in life.
It is through loss that the characters finally value what they had before. We see this with Tony Leung's character, Chow, in 2046.
He don't really appreciate the things that surround him. He only appreciates them afterwards, when they are gone. He can't react to them in real life.
Loss permeates Wong's entire filmography, and you can't help but wonder whether this originates from a very personal place.
Now, did she get to see you successful as a filmmaker?
No, she passed away before I became the director, and it is one of my biggest regrets.
I bet it is.
Yes.
To have her see a movie you made after
Yes.
all those hours of sitting there in the theater.
Because she's the one who introduced me to cinemas and also music. She's a very good singer.
She's a good singer.
Yes.
Whenever I hear Wong speak about his mother, my heart breaks for him. You can tell just how much he adored her.
And somehow I discovered there's a Spanish version sung by the Nat King Cole, so I used that in the film as a memory of my mom.
The aftertaste Wong Kar-wai's films create is due to a variety of different reasons, but ultimately at their core they are deeply personal.
I think that the process is to make it as personal as possible. I think that's the real thing.
And because they are so personal, they will always resonate with audiences. The world of Wong Kar-wai is perennial, and he will always be one of my favourite directors of all time. Thank you for everything, Wong, and I cannot wait to see what you have planned next now that Blossom Shanghai is done.
People ask, do you need vacations? To make a film for me is the actual process of production is vacation to me, and I enjoy the process very much.